Hey Falcons, it's Mrs. Abdul, and I'm talking about my top 10 for summer reading. The first one is called Punching the Air by Evie Zoboi. I'm actually going to start with one of my favorite pages from this first novel. On the day of my conviction, I memorize my inmate number, my crime, my time. On the day of my conviction, I forget my school ID number, my top 3 colleges, my class schedule. This is the story about Amal, who is both kind of a poet and artist, and ends up on the wrong side of a crime and now is imprisoned. Part of the story is inspired by Yusef Salam, who is one of the Central Park Five, who is a contributor to the story by Evie Zoboi. This one is written in verse, so it feels really fast paced, but also about a boy in crisis and what he does to keep sane after being put in prison. The next one is called Punching Bag by Rex Ogle. This is a companion to his first book called Free Lunch. These are really thin and easy to get through, but so heartbreaking to read. This is the second autobiography that he's written about being in an abusive household. And the thread that pulls this story together is the fact that his mom blames him for the death of his sister, a sister that he never knew because the sister was never born. There was a lot of abuse between whatever new man was in his mom's life, and she was pregnant and ultimately lost a baby, and she blames Rex for this. And mind you, Rex was only 10, 11 years old when she confides this to him as a way to kind of make him feel guilty. So that one's called Punching Bag by Rex Ogle. The next one is a nonfiction story called From a Whisper to a Rallying Cry, The Killing of Vincent Chin and the Trial That Galvanized the Asian American Movement by Paula. This was an award winner last year. It was one of the finalists for the Excellence in Nonfiction Award, and features a story within a story. We open up the story with a boy who discovers who Vincent Chin was because his mom was almost going to marry Vincent Chin. Vincent Chin was out the night before his wedding day and was in a club in which 2 white men took out their anger and frustration about what was happening in the Detroit car plants and ended up beating Vincent Chin in the middle of the street outside of the club. And the Asian Americans in the Detroit area were kind of sick and tired of being the punching bags for what was happening in the auto industry, but also in the area, and decided to kind of pull together in order to seek hate crime status for what happened to these 2 men who killed Vincent Chin. The Perfect Place to Die by Bryce Moore, I can celebrate a little bit because it's going to be available without any wait or for as long as you need to during now through August 17th, because it was chosen as a Sora Sweet Reads. So if you use Sora digitally for audiobooks and ebooks, using your ID number to log into it, The Perfect Place to Die is one of those books. So I highly recommend this one. And you'll love, especially if you're a true crime or mystery fan. This is actually historical fiction because it's based on H.H. Holmes, who was a notorious serial killer during the World's Fair in Chicago in the 1890s. This one is about Ruby, who ends up leaving her small town in the middle of the Midwest, and her sister Zaretta, who takes off in order to find her because mysteriously Ruby has not returned any of her letters. And Zaretta realizes that she might have been working at this kind of hotel storefront. And as she tries to track down her sister, realizes that there's a little bit more going on inside of this place than meets the eye. So that one is called The Perfect Place to Die. A Thousand Steps into Night by Traci Chee is a wonderful Japanese-inspired fantasy. If you like some epic storytelling, Traci Chee is phenomenal for that, but this one does not do it justice. This is about the realm of Awara and our main character, Miyuko, who has a quest to accomplish. She has to break this curse that's happening, and she realizes that once she comes out the other side, she might not be the same person that she went in as. And in this realm, gods, monsters, and humans all exist together. So every turn, every step, every move that she makes, there are demons and adventure and things to overcome. So epic fantasy for sure. If you want a little bit of superhero, this one is called Whistle by E. Lockhart, and it's illustrated by Manuel Preitano. This is a graphic novel, and this one is about Willow, whose mom is dying of cancer, and she lives in New Gotham City, where Enigma and Poison Ivy are overtaking the city. So she teams up in order to help save that city by becoming her alter ego Whistle, and has her sidekick the Hound to help her. Take Me With You When You Go by David Levithan and Jennifer Niven is a dual narrative story. So Jennifer Niven writes B as the character, and David Levithan writes Ezra as the character. And they are siblings who have grown up being psychologically and emotionally abused by the mother and stepfather, to the point where B has decided that she is just going to cut ties and leave and run away. And so she leaves a note that only Ezra can find with an email address, and they communicate through email. Ezra would love to go with his sister and is kind of floored that she would leave him in this house. Everybody turns a blind eye to what's happening. They want to ignore what's happening when the police are called or when something happens in school. And so Ezra is trying to make designs in order to escape himself, but B is looking to get some answers about their biological father. I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. I will always and forever recommend any of her historical fiction. This one is not so distantly in history. This is in 1989, and it's set in Romania. And Christian is our main character, who's been asked by the government to become an informant, and really given no choice. You know, he's stuck in what he's being asked to do, and the fact that everyone in Romania feels like they're under surveillance. So you really get the feel of what this communist regime under Nicolae Ceausescu was like. And Ruta does an amazing job of collecting some primary sources and interviews to really make you feel the mistrust that is permeating everything in Romania. Freedom Swimmer is also historical fiction. This is by Chim, and this takes place during China's Great Leap Forward. And just like Take Me With You When You Go, has this dual narrative. So Ming and Lee are our main characters. Ming is kind of like that country kid. He grew up, his parents were both died of famine out in the country in China. And Lee grew up in the city and is part of kind of like the communist revolution. And Lee is now part of that revolutionary group that's going to come out to the country and help learn how to till the fields and work the fields and spread the message and the word. Well, Ming has very different experiences than Lee does, and so the connection between the two of them and understanding where both of them come from, makes this connection to what actually ultimately happened to a lot of people who were seeking refuge away from China. And that was what this freedom swim would do. So Ming has always enjoyed swimming and is now going to make a break for it. If he can swim to a certain area, he will seek asylum and be saved. And so he is going to do that possibly and leave behind a girl who has always had a crush on him and you know, felt connected to him. And she's got a great quote that kind of showcases the paranoia, but also what they hoped would be accomplished if they made their way to refuge. We lay in silence. I thought she had fallen asleep, but then she spoke again. Your house is nice, so close to the ocean. Her words slurred with drowsiness. Maybe tomorrow we can both turn into fish and swim away. So it showcases the desperation that they were all feeling. However, there was this hopefulness that if they got to this area that they would be saved. And we'll end with another kind of cool fantasy. This one is called Gallant by V.E. Schwab. It reminds me a lot of Stranger Things. So if you're a fan of Stranger Things, there's kind of like this upside down like door portal, but there are ghouls and ghosts that are kind of haunting this mansion. And Olivia has grown up away from this mansion. She didn't know that she had a family, and she had been growing up in an orphanage and was called away from the orphanage to visit Gallant, where she finds her cousin Matthew, who she didn't know existed, and Matthew's not quite happy to have her there either. And she gets kind of sucked into what living inside of this mansion is like, and what sinister forces are on the other side of the wall. And she also discovers journals that hold the secrets to what happened to her mother and why she ended up in an orphanage the way she did for many, many years. So as dark as it is, there is so much adventure, so much to unwrap, and the world is just so vividly painted that it's a fantastic fantasy story. So in order to get all the information that you need for summer reading, you can visit the Albany Schools website if you click on academics and go to summer programs and reading 9 through 12. Look for a video from Mrs. Mike and myself. There are plenty of opportunities for you to borrow books from our library, the public library, digitally, and you can always send a message and or text the library at 992-3112 in order for us to help you with any of this for summer reading. And use our hashtag over the summer with whatever it is you're reading, hashtag read like a falcon. And we hope you do that all summer long.